welcome to Talking Youth Work. My name is Anita Silva, and together with Rui Branco, we interview experts and practitioners that have a say when it comes to innovation in youth work. This current series is funded by the project Inception of Learning, that is funded by the European Commission through the Erasmus Plus Youth Key Action 2 projects. This project aims to support youth workers, trainers, and educators in delivering quality learning experiences in the field of youth in the context of Generation Z and Generation Alpha. Hello. Today's guest is someone who truly embodies youth work, not just as a profession, but on the way he showed up to the table. And that's how me and Rui really felt about it. It was a really energizing conversation with Paul Menier. He's a youth worker at heart and a people-centered leader. He started his career studying psychology and acting as a clinical therapist, but now he serves as an executive director of the Youth Intervention Programs Association. And in this conversation, we explored what it means to be a youth worker in a rapidly changing world. So I would say the focus on characterizing these new generations, namely Generation Alpha, Generation Z, changed in this episode. And we focused on the youth workers working with these generations, which was super interesting. We talked about the responsibility of working with new generations and the importance of self-reflection for practitioners and how organizations of youth work need to hold this space sacred of allowing youth workers to have the time and the quality space to reflect on themselves, on the practices, on the challenges they find working with new generations. And regarding the young people themselves, we talked about, so many different things, but one thing that really stuck with me was that we normally kind of externalize that the young people nowadays, they are too attached to technology. They maybe have challenges with social skills, etc. But maybe they're not. These challenges are not theirs alone. We too are living through the same cultural and technological shifts. And once we start bringing that self-awareness, maybe we can ground our practice slightly differently when it comes to working with the generations and through these challenges that we're all facing. All in all, it was a very interesting conversation. Paul offers a bold, hopeful vision of the future, and one that is trusted or rooted in trust, in authentic connection. And I'm really excited for you to listen to this thoughtful and energizing conversation. So with no further ado, let's talk youth work. Hi, everyone. Hi, Paul. Good to have you here. So nice to have you today with us. Paul, where are you zooming from today?
From the United States, in the beautiful state of Minnesota, which borders on with the Canadian border. And so I am in a cold environment today.
Well, we hope the conversation warms you up. For me, I'm in Lisbon, and I'm afraid to say that it's also cold, actually. And hi, Rui.
Hello, Paul. Hello, Anita. And I'm like we usually say, I'm always in the same place. I'm the one that doesn't travel. Anita is always traveling, but I'm always in the same place. I'm near Lisbon. More closer to Cascais, but also in Portugal.
Very well. So we have a transatlantic conversation today. And Paul, I know that you are a very experienced youth worker, and you just wrote a book on youth work as well. And how did you got here? That's the question we always ask our guests. How did you end up attached to the field of youth work? What's your story?
Like most youth workers, I did not wake up one day as a child and say, someday I'm going to be supporting young people. I took a very zigzag path into this. And I think it really boils down to the fact that I've always been very self-reflective and self-aware of what life is like for me and how I experience it. And that led me to doing a variety of jobs to where eventually I landed on psychology as something that was super interesting to me because it was self-exploration, not only understanding human behavior in general, but understanding my own human behavior, my motivations, my biases, my life story. And so I pursued a graduate degree in psychology. And as a result of having a buddy who worked in a residential treatment center for juveniles, I was able to get an internship there. And that was working with young males that were in trouble with the juvenile justice system. And they were ages in their teenage years. And I kind of just fell in love with it. It became very natural. It's something that I really enjoyed. And it was something that brought meaning to my life as well. Every interaction, every encounter allowed me to explore a little bit about my life journey and what my life has taught me. So the gift that you get from youth work is really pretty phenomenal. So, and then I've been just doing it a long time since then. And I've enjoyed the ride and met just wonderful people along the way, like you all. I know your hearts are in the right place. I know you're doing the best you can to improve the quality of the young people that are in your programs or that you support in some sort of capacity. And you're just trying to make the world a little better place. And I'm forever lucky to be able to work with those kinds of people.
Wow, thank you. Yes, I think it's a story that a lot of us recognize. We were just talking before starting recording that there's this kind of line. We should do a research on our guests and the people that tell our stories and the commonalities between all these key points in their lives where suddenly they went click and said like, maybe supporting next generations is a cool thing to do. Mm-hmm. And it's all kind of fulfilling also work, I would say. At least for me, I also feel it like that. And we have that in common. I also worked not, in juvenile institutions, but more linked to what we would call here foster care institutions. So emergency houses
Sure.
for young people in the beginning. So we have that in common. Going straight to our topic here. You've worked with those young people back then, like me. And now when we work with young people, we notice differences. At least I also notice differences in me, surely, and in them. So my first question would be this. What are you or what are youth workers that you talk to and you work with noticing in these new generations in terms of their learning habits, their preferences, how they relate?
It's an interesting question because the pace of information, the overload sometimes of social stimulus and involvement in big geopolitical kind of topics such as global warming and civic unrest, which is happening a lot in the United States here, is definitely something that young people are dealing with. And it feels very different than when I was growing up. And I think that it is having an impact in how we work with young people, but maybe not so much in terms of the developmental tasks that are still required of young people. I don't think those have changed. The moment that we're in might cause us to think differently about how we want to support them, but it feels like throughout time, the developmental stages of life and the goals and the things that young people have to figure out to have a positive youth development haven't really changed a whole lot.
Yeah, I think that the technology brings another challenge, but it's not a different challenge. It's the challenge I feel that for young people is being always connected or feeling that they have to be connected all the time, and the pressure that they put on themselves to be a certain way or look a certain way for others in a social network. And that's a different challenge that people didn't have a few years ago, because we're this hyperconnectivity and being perceived as someone like popular or that has reach. It's a different challenge that the developmental phase that young people are going through, it's not so compatible.
Yeah, life is certainly a production these days. The getting just the right picture, being able to write the exact right post, and then putting it out there to be judged is, I think, what feels so different to me about it. I think the critique and the criticism comes at you from so many different ways that it makes it hard to understand. I think what's incumbent upon us as adults is to figure out how we best understand and make sense of all of that too. Because I don't think just young people are alone trying to figure out this new age that we're in. And I know for myself, one post can throw me in a loop for a couple hours. If like, how could they say that? How could they do that? And if I often ask myself, if I don't have a good grasp on it, how could I possibly be supportive of young people trying to understand that? So I think when it comes to this, it really boils down to our ability to understand ourselves and to be grounded in our philosophy of how to support young people through these tough times, because we need to be able to show up and be aware and supportive from our level of understanding as well.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you that as new generations keep adapting to the world around them, either technological shifts or, like you said, social political shifts or different visions of what they should be doing at what age, different pressure from society, etc. It is the job of the youth worker to stay connected, to still connect, right? To search, to seek that connection. What do you think are the main challenges for youth workers nowadays? What are the main challenges they face themselves in order to connect with these generations that sometimes we find troubles in understanding, in connecting to?
I do think that we face, as youth workers, like I said, the same challenges. So I believe you can't separate youth work from the youth worker. I believe at the heart of every successful supporting of a young person, whether through an intervention, whether it's through mentoring, whether it's through education, is the ability to connect and build a meaningful relationship with that young person. There has to be a deep sense of trust and security within all that. And so it's incumbent upon us as people who have taken the responsibility of supporting young people and trying to help them to better understand ourselves. And when we go through these phases, like if you look at the history of evolution of the human species, it's gone through phases where there's been massive transformation, whether it's been through famine, pandemics, wars, hard economic downturns, those kinds of things. Humans have always been able to figure out a way to adapt to those and adjust to those and keep sound and keep grounded in their values and their purpose in this world. And so I think the best way to help young people through these really hectic, crazy times, which the speed of change is unprecedented. That's something that's not historically seen. I don't think we've ever seen things change with artificial intelligence and chatbots, and young people are talking to chatbots and all those kinds of things. At the end of the day, it still really boils down to our ability to have a good handle of ourselves so we know how to present and be present and supportive of those young people. And that hasn't changed. So the more we dig in and understand what is our understanding of social media, what is our awareness and our beliefs about artificial intelligence, so we're grounded in those topics. We have to learn. We have to educate ourselves. We have to explore. We have to be honest with ourselves about how we use these things so that we can have that foundation to hear what young people are saying and not to impose our values or our wills or our beliefs about that on them, but so that we have a baseline to compare, because otherwise we're just randomly shooting out ideas and topics and suggestions that aren't grounded in like a personal philosophy or a deep understanding of how you can live a good life and still interact with all these changes and do the good things and the right things that will someday allow you, when you're older, to developmentally look back at your life. And I think I led an honorable, meaningful life that contributed to the common good, which I believe is why so many of us get into this work. I think that we have a shared value of somehow there's something really important about contributing to the common good. And I think when you get to, we're talking developmental psychology a little bit, but one of the end of life's developmental task is to do a life review. And do you look back with regret or do you look back with integrity? And I think that's what we're just trying to help people get on the right path to develop, so that when they get to be my age, I'm in my early 60s, you start looking back and you don't have a lot of regret. You look back with integrity. And that's kind of what we're trying to do to young people. So that's a long answer. Sorry about that. It's a deeply complicated topic, and we're living through such turbulent, fast-changing times that it's important we just stay grounded and realize this isn't, it's the speed of change is different, but the massive amounts of changes are not that different. The history of the world has lived through things before.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for the long answer, because I think that's the difference. People are trying to look for the simple answer to very complicated issues, and
100%.
And we're fighting because we're not looking for the let's stay here, listening to people. Let's stay here talking about this, without going straight to a quick answer to solve this problem now, because everybody's struggling. Everybody's struggling. So let's sit down and talk.
Anita, you talked about you were training youth workers, and I've done a lot of training of youth workers and youth work leaders. And I so often find people go, but what do you do when? What do you say if? Okay. And I always go, I can't tell you what to say if or when. That's what's incumbent upon you. I think the more I've been in this field and the longer I've done it, the more I realize how it is so incumbent upon us to be self-reflective. And there's no better way to support a young person than to better understand yourself. And I don't know if our field talks about that enough. And I wish we could move to that place to where, again, you can't separate the youth worker from youth work, because it is you. You are the main instrument. Your life journey, your experiences, your wisdom, your knowledge, your perception, your integrity, your honor, all those kinds of things are what you need to bring. And if you really want to have a strong impact, the more you understand yourself, the better you're going to be to help young people. So I don't know if you share that kind of frustration when people say, well, what do I say if a young person says this, or a young person refuses to push in their chair? When I say, okay, everybody stand up, push in. It's like, it's so different for every situation and every young person.
That's true. I like what you said about self-awareness, no? That it is part of the job to increase our self-awareness, to revisit who we are, where our values are, how we are changing, and how we are reacting to change as it unfolds faster and faster and faster. I think that is a super important topic.
Well, one of the reasons I wrote my book, because I started working primarily training youth workers after I felt like I developed some level of competency in that and felt like I had something to say or contribute to the growth of other people. As we were saying before, and you were both shaking your head about the idea of, I wish we talked more about self-awareness and self-reflection. And I think that comes from leadership within the field. And that's why I wrote my book. It's a leadership book for people who are in leadership positions within the youth serving field, whether it's education, corrections, mentoring, mental health, whatever that might be, is that the leaders in these organizations or these institutions are the ones that have to set the climate and the culture about the need for self-growth and the need for self-reflection, and give ample opportunities to engage in conversations about when a situation occurred, what kind of impact did that have on you? Did you feel frustrated? Did you feel angered? How did you respond? And why did you respond that way? I think we're missing so much of that. And so I feel like my contribution to the field of youth work now lies in trying to teach the leaders to instill this in their cultures and in their environment of inquiry and curiosity and honest self-reflection.
I like that point that that youth workers at times, at least in Europe, I have this sense from the field and a little bit of feedback from professionals that we are on reaction mode all the time. It's a profession that is not super recognized in some countries, not at all. Actually, it doesn't exist. It's done on a voluntary basis. People struggle to have the proper time and the proper resources to do it. And therefore, there is little time, that becomes like a top of pyramid needs. There's other needs that come first, let's say, at least in their perception, their experience. And there is a lack of organizational culture of support to these youth workers and a space where they can reflect on what happened, or even supervision for that matter, not just to discuss what is going on. I used to have all the kids happy to do a game and nobody stands up because they want to be on their phones. I don't know what to do. Let's talk about this and how we feel about it, and how, again, maybe not to look for recipes, but to look for, inquiry, right? Like interesting inquiry and ways forward.
Yeah. I appreciate what you said about it not being recognized as the profession that it is, and the skill and the difficulty that it takes to get good at this, and how there's just a general lack of awareness about that. And in my podcast, I interviewed people from around the globe, and I found that to be a universal theme. So what you're saying about Portugal is very true in the United States as well. It feels like there hasn't been given due cause to the importance of this. And then we get our leaders, our political leaders, our business leaders get baffled why we have so much social unrest and how we don't have a skilled workforce. And we have drug and alcohol problems. We have domestic violence. And it surprises them. It catches them off guard, and they're baffled by it. And you just go, no, it's really pretty basic. It seems like across the globe, it feels like a human flaw. No matter if a remote village in Africa to a highly industrialized city like London, England, there's a subset of young people that seem to get left behind. And we seem to write that off as just collateral consequences, the cost of doing business as a society or as people. And until we understand the social and economic value of the work you all are preaching and talking about, and doing everything you can to help people become as effective when they have those moments with the young people, has to really be elevated at some level. And part of the reason I wrote the book was to hopefully get people talking about that more, because it feels like so much of what's wrong with the world could be better improved if we paid attention to what our young people are telling us and the struggles they're going through. I think that would fundamentally change our communities and our countries and our global perception of so many of the problems we face today. The longer I've been doing this, the more clear that becomes to me.
We should find like a youth work KPI. So it's like it's measurable, and sometimes it's difficult even in my work as a psychologist, that how do you measure there are scales and tests you can do, but the real impact of something like this that we're talking about, of helping young people have and lead better lives and becoming leaders in their own sense, in their own community, in their own families. Yes. It's a challenge to measure that. And do we have to measure? That is my question.
I wonder. And I think I don't want to discredit all that, and because I think there's some place for that. But I think we put so much emphasis on those kinds of things that we miss the main point. My story getting into this is trained as a psychologist like you. I was trained to diagnose, to create a treatment plan, and then fix that young person and move on. It was the medical model. And it didn't take me very long to get into this field and start having deep conversations with young people and realize they may be meeting the criteria for different diagnoses of mental health, but I wondered how much of it was environmental and situational versus truly like what I don't know, I don't want to discredit the field at all because I believe in psychology, I believe in mental health, but the idea that all young people have some sort of mental health disorder because they're misbehaving feels like such a problem to me. And I started looking at the systems around them, and it dawned on me quickly that so many of the behaviors that we're doing were kind of survival mode behaviors. And behaviors, if you looked at the content and you just truly look back and said, what is this young person's environment like? Some of these behaviors made absolutely perfect sense to me. And we're trying to tell them, don't do that, and yet I don't know, let's say just make something up. Their dad is beating up their mom on a regular basis. And we're expecting them to go learn algebra, when they're wondering if they're going to go home and mom is safe. Or, that's just one extreme example. But it's to illustrate a point that I think we overemphasize the clinical aspect of it and minimize the relational aspect of it. I've got this little theory that I'm kind of working on lately, and I haven't really fudged it out too much, but can I share it with you a little bit?
Absolutely.
I feel like over life, over the span of human history, there's been times when everybody had a teacher and everybody was a student. It was part of just growing up. You had mentors, you had people you mentored, you had friends that you bounced ideas off of, and you connected with each other. And that's how the human world existed for so long. And for some reason, I could speak best to the United States. We've commoditized that. We've turned it into an industry where you tell your concerns and your fears to somebody and you pay them a check to do that. And it feels like I've been reading a lot about Stoic philosophy lately, and I know you're in the part of the world where the Roman empires came, and it's very fascinating to me to think about that you're living where this all happened at some point. But everybody, the great Roman emperors they were students of other teachers, and they were teachers. And so like my friends and my buddies, sometimes I learn from them, sometimes they learn from me. And we somehow need to teach young people that they got to find their resources to go throughout life, and don't just turn to social media like we were kind of talking about at the beginning, or rely on having a therapist to just have your basic lessons about life and your understanding about friendship and relationships and partnerships and all those kinds of things. We've missed the opportunity to just learn that from each other. And I feel like this is what youth work is trying to do. We're trying to model that. We're trying to say, I'm your friend. We've connected on some level because I have this degree or I've got this job. You're a young person who apparently needs some support, and we come together. Well, what are we doing together? What we're trying to do is model what it's like to have normal relationships and learn about life and understand your development, understand your situations. Feels like we got away from that, just inherently what is a human condition to do.
Yeah. And Marcus really starts meditation, thanking all his teachers, all his grandfather.
Yes.
So
yes.
Big fan also.
It's cool stuff. I am so into Stoic philosophy right now. The leading a virtuous life.
Yes.
And those kinds of things are wonderful. You're where I'm talking to you from, your culture's so rich with all that history and stuff. And the United States is such a new kind of thing. We don't have that. And so it's really interesting to grasp onto that. And it's I don't know. The only reason I brought that up is because you're Portugal. And I understand that. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm glad you both found each other, because sometimes I have issues with the Stoics, I have to say. I love a lot of it, and especially this idea of that we continuously learn and improve, and we look for more
And we're all
integral.
connected. Yeah, like Marcus Aurelius reflects a lot on that.
I'm on the same.
Yes.
I'm on board with that. But there's other areas that I'm like, oh, sometimes me and Rui talked about it already. I'm like, well, I'm not so sure if I like this that much.
Well, they seem to want to suppress a lot of feelings and emotions, right?
Exactly,
and you had to be stoic and tough and work your way through it.
And I'm like, well, no.
Don't grieve, just move on. You should expect your spouse is going to die. Why would you be surprised by that?
Exactly.
Well, it still hurts. Yes, it still hurts. And you still have a massive loss. Yes, I get that part too.
Yeah. Anyways, you said a bunch of things that stayed with me. It's even hard for me now to connect with what. But one thing that you said right at the beginning that I just wanted to underline, because I think it's such a good perspective. It was just that you said that one way of connecting with these younger generations now, going back to Gen Alpha and Gen Z, is to understand that a lot of their behavior, a lot of the struggles they have, for example, with being always attached to their phone, or having a relationship with AI that we can question if it's healthy or not, or maybe not having all the social skills we hoped they had, or whatever our expectations dictate. It's the same problems we face. I think that is crucial, that as adults we recognize this is not a we and them. This is I am struggling with social media. I am struggling. I'm asking ChatGPT what to do in the middle of a fight with my husband or my wife. We are all using ChatGPT or AI in weird ways, let's say. We are losing touch with friends, and we people share how hard nowadays it is to meet friends physically and make appointments and have quality time with family and stuff. So this is not a young people's thing; it's all of us thing that we all need to look for answers together. I love that, because very easily we kind of get in trincheiras. That's a Portuguese word. Maybe who can help me? We get beyond our own barricade. Mm-hmm. Right? Like it's us and them are there, and they're wrong. And we didn't used to be like that.
Trenches.
Yeah. We come on our trenches like we didn't used to be like that. Well, we are now, actually. we are now as much as they are, or at least experiencing the same challenge. So I love that you underline that, because I think that is a big part of working with any new generation, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, or the new generations that are coming better, which started this year. It's always a good way to start, to understand it. It's also a principle of empathy. It's not about that they are weird creatures nowadays. There's much more connection points if we look for them. I love that. And that leads me to one of the questions on something else you said, which is the importance of the relationship, the importance of us as youth workers searching for quality relationship with the young people that we work with, meaningful relationships of support, versus the fact that maybe now they have other sources, namely online, AI or social media influencers or whatnot, sources, I'm putting that in brackets, but that they find maybe more legitimate or more interesting or more entertaining or more, how can we reflect on that together, on the fact that I think even some youth workers have shared like, well, am I still needed? Because now, anytime soon AI can answer all their questions, can bring all the stuff. What would you say to these youth workers that are struggling with this, with their role?
That's a great question. And it's one I've spent a lot of time thinking about as I start chatting with ChatGPT and things like that. I think one of the things that's never going to be replaced is the process and the sloppiness of what relationships are. That is inherently valuable in understanding our own selves. Mm-hmm. And I just know ChatGPT always says, like, that's a great idea, Paul. You're really thinking good on this now. And it's like, he's never going to tell you, what a stupid idea, Paul. Get your head out of your butt, start thinking about this in real terms and in real life. And I think that's a piece that I think young people are really desiring. Not everybody, we talked a little bit in our exchange as we were preparing for this podcast that some young people don't even like this, social networking, via, the internet and all that kind of stuff. And other people overdo it. It's trying to find that right balance. But I think in terms of our fears about AI, I'm pretty much a proponent of AI because I don't think it'll replace the intricacies, the feelings, the connections you get. We know biologically, and there's mirror electrons. We start mimicking what the other person is doing without even knowing it, and those things are so meaningful and deep that I think something AI will never be able to do, I believe. So I think it really boils down to helping young people figure that out and understand that and go, you can get great answers from ChatGPT or any other chatbot that you're talking to, but are they really going to understand the nuances of how you're presenting in your voice, see the untruthfulness in your eyes when you're trying to tell them, no, I'm not bothered by what so-and-so said, when you can tell in your heart, they're really irritated by it. Technology will never pick up on that stuff. And so I think it's teaching them responsible use of it. Technology gives us so much agency, an ability to do things we couldn't do before. Full disclosure, when I was preparing for this podcast today, I put our email chain into ChatGPT and said, help me frame this so I know how to talk about it. I really don't want to, I want to meet the needs of what they want. They've got this series going on a generation Alpha and Generation Z, and I want to meet their needs. I want to do the best I can, but yet I want to be true to what I believe. And it gave me some ideas to reframe it and suggest it, but truth is, I haven't followed that, but it was helpful to get me thinking. It was like a thought partner to bounce an idea off. I don't have anybody, I work from my house. I don't have anybody to go like, hey, I'm going to do this podcast. I didn't have anybody to bounce that idea off. So I bounced the idea off it. At the end, I didn't really stick with what it said. I thought I'm just going to be more organic and just have a conversation. That usually is the best way to go. And so the advice that it gave me is something I dismissed. But it got me thinking.
Yeah, but it's developing the ability to dismiss sometimes. And I feel that has to be also trained, that not all advice from older people or wiser people are right for me. And it's like being able to say, that sounds like a good idea, or I don't think so. And that's the difficult muscle to develop.
Yeah.
It is. And that's kind of at the heart of youth work, is teaching young people to decipher in their environment, in their world, in the people that are involved in that. What do you accept and what do you let go of? And we all had to do that in our own development, right? We had people in our world that were good for us, people in our world that was bad. We saw things we liked and we wanted to grow up and be more like that. We saw things we liked and we thought, I'm not going to be like that at all. And so what we're really doing is just coaching them how to be aware and self-reflective and to make the best of their own world so that they know how to live in it to the best of their abilities. Mm-hmm. I think that's really insightful.
Yeah. And it also kind of prompt me to think something interesting here, that is generationally, what we see happening many times is that one generation that went through something in childhood that made them who they are, then have a hard time understanding why the next generation doesn't have the same qualities when they didn't have the same childhood. So, for example, my mom, she started working at very young age. She was a shepherd by the age of 5 with the cows. And she was at 12 a professional maid in somebody's home. So, of course, she learned discipline and hard work and effort very early. Then I came in and I didn't have that childhood, thankfully. And I went to school and I did the same things with probably the three of us did, or very similar. But my mom always complained that I didn't have discipline and hard work. And of course, I wouldn't have the same that she had. I had a totally different existence. And I think now I may be feeling from this conversation the same generational gap, which is we grow up playing on the streets, interacting with friends all the time, human interaction all the time. So these social skills, as we call them, this capacity to accept the imperfections, the sloppiness of what relationships are, as you referred, I like that term. We grew up into that. That was our reality. Of course, we kind of have a bit of capacity to handle that. These young people, however, we are giving them computers early age and digital PlayStations and everything to stimulate their cognition or whatever. We are also having very difficult lives to put them together with their friends often. We are also not allowing them to play on the streets because in many places it's not even possible. So of course they don't have these social skills. It's very easy to blame technology or AI or whatever, but it's just the fact that they are growing up in a very different world than we are. And maybe now it's our job to teach something we never had to be taught. Nobody had to teach us that in our time because our circumstances taught us that. But now maybe it becomes the youth worker's role as well to find strategies for young people to actually intentionally learn that. How do you see that? Am I babbling too much?
I think that's very, very wise, wonderful words of wisdom. I believe that's very true. And that's what I've been trying to carefully walk on, is that it is just, we tend to think this is so different, and it is different. The speed of it is so different, but it's a generational task that every generation before us and every generation after us will have. And that's where it really boils down to understanding ourselves and not influencing our beliefs and our biases onto people, but helping them understand what their purpose is in life, what their values are, and helping that do that. I think that's unique. And it's sad that, and getting back into like this global problem or this human flaw of allowing this to go on for since eons, is that we need to somehow as adults raise awareness about that and just say nobody's winning by not having young people have effective mentors in their life making sense of the world. Just there isn't anybody benefiting from that at all. We tend to want to brush it off and pretend it doesn't exist, and then we pay the price down the road. So I think what you said is absolutely spot on, and I think you're very wise, and I'm grateful you're out teaching other people about youth work, because you're raising and hopefully educating a whole nother generation of people that will pass down those words of wisdom that you just said to the other people. That's where our legacy really comes in this work, right? Is the work shouldn't stop when we're done. All we're trying to do is prepare the next generation the best they can to do what they can do to be as effective as possible with young people, because those young people are counting on us. It's an important job.
Yeah, but also that I was listening to both of you, and I was thinking that we need to do more of the I don't know philosophy, because everyone is full of certainties. And if you're standing on the ground of I have the truth, and you stand for I have the truth, and if everybody, I really don't know, but I will try to figure it out. I think that if we had more of that attitude, things would be easier for everyone.
Couldn't agree more.
A true Stoic talking, or?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, Marcus Aurelius from Portugal.
Exactly.
That's right.
Rui Aurelius.
Rui Aurelius.
Okay, we're coming, unfortunately, to almost the end of our time here. But so we have a question from our previous guest. Mm-hmm. It's never directed to you. It's always directed to the next guest, which we never share. So Rui is going to share that question, and we wish you good luck on the answer.
Yes, it's a long question, so I will say it slowly.
Slowly.
Yeah. What is the bad side of putting all our educational focus on creativity and curiosity and driving towards that?
That is a tough question, and it's one I wish I had a follow-up from the questioner so I better understood it. So I'll answer it from how I interpret the question, if that's okay.
Perfect.
I think curiosity and creativity are critical, to this field. But if that's all we're focused on, we're missing the point. The point is we do need to have some certainty in ourselves. We do need to have some certainty about what we're doing. We do need to be grounded in our values and grounded in our purpose in life to be effective in this work. So I think it takes both creativity and curiosity to then develop that grounded sense of self, and to know that we don't always have the right answers, to know that somebody else's perspective may be different than mine, and it could very well be right. And so I think that's what they were going for, and I hope I answered the question. I gave it my best.
Yeah.
How's that? Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. And now you can revenge and leave a question for the next guest.
All right. I'll try to be really succinct. What are you doing to better yourself, to better support others?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a good one. Great. Well, thank you so much, Paul. It's been a pleasure talking to you, to know about you, your work, and the book you wrote. We will also add the links to the text that follows the podcast. We can't wait to hear more about your adventures and reflections on youth work and the youth work community. Yes, and reach out anytime you need also support from this side of the world, stoic or not stoic.
Well, it was a pleasure meeting both of you and having this conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I will say that I'm absolutely grateful for the work you're doing. The world needs more people like you. It would have a better place if everybody had the heart and the compassion that you bring to this work. So thank you for what you're doing. And if anybody would like to reach out to me to learn more about the book or what I can do to help organizations or leaders grow into their ability, I'd be happy to connect with them and have a conversation about that as well.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Rui.
Thank you. This podcast was brought to you by Tim Mais, recorded and edited by Rui Branco for the international project Inception of Learning, financed by the Erasmus Plus program. Our great partners for this project are the associations Fundacja Instytut Innowacji from Poland, Jasna Idnina from North Macedonia, and Odd Socks from Montenegro.